I think there definitely were times uh, when they may have been more favorable, but like everything, other places catch up. Texas, Wyoming, Nevada. Um, it doesn't take much to make business friendly law if that's what you're trying to attract to your
Mhm.
state. But short answer to your question, it probably is favorable. The benefit I would probably say is people have just gotten used to it. They know how to deal with these Delaware entities. So it certainly serves a purpose.
Yeah, I think the right answer is exactly like you said. That most of the other conservative states have caught up with the Delaware's favorable business laws. To episode 134 of the Weekly Docket, a podcast by the Silverman Law Firm, where we talk legal news and practical law. Today is August 6th, 2026. I'm Phil Silverman, owner of the firm and your host, and I'm joined by Chris Heald, who's the firm's supervising head litigating attorney. Chris, you've got a deposition to go to. We think it's a virtual deposition, which I hope it is because it starts at 1 o'clock, and we're shooting now at 12:25 p.m.
And it's in Friendswood. So
How many? How many? Have you done a couple virtual depos before with video depositions? So
yeah, I don't love them, but in this case, the other side is just literally deposing every single person, and it's sort of ridiculous.
hmm,
So I'm trying not to travel to Friendswood and Galveston and all the place to sit
yeah.
through depots that should be 2 hours, but actually go 6.
Oh, do you think this video deposition is going to go 6 hours?
It's scheduled for 2, but yesterday's deposition should have been 2 and it was 6. So
You know, if it really is one of these depositions where it's not the party, it's not like a main witness, if you will. It's sort of like the witness is kind of an afterthought where you're deposing the third or fourth vice president that was somewhat related to the transaction, or just making up the facts. I think I would find it hard to focus for 6 hours. I mean, you're just sitting there. I guess we're getting paid. You do the best you can to lock in, or what do you do? You just sort
yeah,
of
because you never know when they're gonna get onto something that is actually relevant that you need to object to, or need to
um,
really pay close attention so that you can follow up. But yeah, even the other attorney by the end was saying, no, really thought this demo was going to be about 2 hours. I mean, no one expected that, I guess, except for that guy. I think there's a bit of gamesmanship going on. I think the other side has a lot of money to spend, and they're trying to outspend us. So,
mm, must must be nice. We seem to never get those clients.
right,
That
we have the poor guy who's fighting to get paid, and the other people just don't want to
mm,
pay him. So they're going to try to
yeah.
outspend him so he goes away.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about what's on our docket today. Good luck on your depot. Hopefully you lock in, stay focused. That can be tough, but talking about Delaware entities versus other state entities, um, how to find bank accounts when someone passes away, and what to do tax records when they're in somebody else's owns the property according to the tax records. Does that matter? And then let's say you're a landlord and you want to set a blanket policy that says you're not going to accept any criminal history. Is that okay or not okay? So we're going to knock out 4 short-ish questions before. So let's start out with whether a Delaware entity is better than a Texas entity. Chris, what do you think?
There's a perception that it is. Is it really? Probably not. The only thing I can really glean is that a lot of big banks and a lot of big corporations feel a little more comfortable dealing with Delaware entities because they know Delaware
Mm,
law and they have their Delaware fees. And Delaware's been known for decades as being business favorable, so everybody formed there. So I think people have just kind of gotten used to it. I think there definitely were times uh, when they may have been more favorable, but like everything, other places catch up. Texas, Wyoming, Nevada. It doesn't take much to make business friendly law if that's what you're trying to attract to your
Mhm.
state. But short answer to your question, it probably is favorable. The benefit I would probably say is people have just gotten used to it. They know how to deal with these Delaware entities. So certainly serves a purpose.
Yeah, I think the right answer is exactly like you said. That most of the other conservative states have caught up with the Delaware's favorable business laws. One of the most recent things Texas did, I think we did a couple years ago, is we started business courts, which is similar for the courts of Chancery in Delaware that have 200 years of business law history. But in Texas, we now have business courts where you can get a judge that is familiar with business law. So that was kind of the last big thing that we did. But the venture capital firms, the private equity firms, they're still used to seeing Delaware entities. So they'll often ask clients to do a Delaware entity. And Chris, on the real estate deals that you've worked on, I know that the lenders want to see Delaware entities. So you've formed Delaware entities. We all have. So Delaware's, kind of the business leader in that regard, but I think we're all catching up now. For if you're a Texas small business, I absolutely do not think you need a Delaware entity. You want to be a Texas entity, very, very favorable. But if you're going to be doing public facing stuff where might be dealing with private equity firms, venture capitalist firms, probably a Delaware entity would not be a bad idea. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's exactly right. And everybody thinks they need the most complicated thing, and it really doesn't apply to everybody. We talk about
no,
this on the podcast. It's a common thing, but you made me think of a situation that maybe, I like to throw sports in there. Back in high school, I worked at a golf course, and that was the heyday of Tiger Woods, and everybody loved Tiger Woods, and people wanted to play Tiger Woods golf ball. And so we sold tons of Tiger Woods golf ball, and it was like, you don't need Tiger Woods golf. You don't have the swing speed. This golf ball does you no good. So a lot of times doing these specialized, highly technical things, it's just so unnecessary. But just thought of that metaphor.
yeah. You often don't need a lot of specialized things, especially in golf, but they make a lot of money selling golf equipment to people that really probably need to spend some money on a lesson before they get a new driver. So, all right, next question. How do I find out bank accounts my mom had after she died? I'm the executor. We get this all the time. We've been doing the show so long now. I think did I say this was episode 134? I don't know.
We lost.
Yeah.
I don't even think you gave a number this time. But yes, the secret is you go to the bank account database, you look up mom's name, you scroll through, and then there will be a list of institutions, account numbers, and account balances all right there for you.
Chris is joking, and we get this question a lot. There is no such thing. It is not easy. I think the best advice we give people is go over to mom's house, look for bank statements in the mail. If you have access to mom's email after she died, that's a good way to see what was coming in. There is a people search feature that sometimes, I don't know when it happens, when it doesn't happen. Sometimes we can see sort of the bank account information, very basic bank account information on the credit report. I don't exactly understand the way that works. Sometimes we see it there, but no, as the executor, you're going to have to be a little bit of a private detective to figure out some of these bank accounts, because mom may have not been so organized as to keep you a perfect list. So,
Bank statements, checkbooks. Some of us old people still have checkbooks around, and even if we don't have it anymore, just try to remember back to the days where you saw mom and dad's checkbooks. Tax returns, those will show any accounts that you got interest payments on. So ideally, if they've got some accounts that paid interest, that'll be a good indication that the account's still there. But yes, I was joking because I know everybody hopes there's the secret database, and it's just not.
speaking of checkbooks, I wonder if anyone knows how to balance checkbooks anymore. I was thinking about my children and balancing checkbooks. They obviously don't write checks anymore, I don't think, but the idea of just the kids knowing how much money's in their bank account, I guess they just look at the app now. Um, and that's sort of what or if you are using checks, then you don't know what checks are out there that haven't been cashed. That was sort of part of the balancing the checkbook. Everything's so instantaneous. I suppose there's a little bit of a delay now, but maybe not
Not
much.
much,
So
because yeah, it's going to get rejected. Even if there's pending payments, they're going to know. So yeah, the whole purpose
sure.
with the checkbooks was you don't want to lose track of the 3 checks that you wrote this week, and then come Monday next week, you wrote those 3 checks, and you don't have enough money in your account. And then that gets
Yeah.
into the whole check kiting thing that I didn't realize was illegal, and neither did my mom when she went to the grocery store on the 14th, and my dad got paid on the 15th, just like everybody else. And everybody was at the grocery store doing their shopping, and you knew the money was going to hit tomorrow, so you go grocery shopping today. Apparently, that's not even legal. So
No, no, definitely not. Well, we digress. All right. Next question. These are short questions. We got to get Krista's deposition. The tax records say someone else owns the property. How do I change the deed? Another one we get a lot. The tax records matter, Chris, as far as ownership goes?
no,
No. They usually match. Realtors do this all the time too. Realtors will pull ownership records from the taxing appraisal district. Not necessarily dispositive, not necessarily means the owner that is in fact the owner. The ownership records can only be sort of gotten by the real property records, county clerk's records. And what you do is you go look at the last deed, and that's how you know who the owner of the property is. But the appraisal district will pull from the deeds, but you'll often see appraisal district records get that wrong. So before we tell this potential client, whoever is asking this question, let's go change the deed. Let's look in the right place, not the tax records. Let's go to the real property records at the county clerk and see who really owns the property. And if it turns out that it's really wrong, then no, you can't there's just sort of no title change, deed change form. You've got to figure out why the property's not in your name and who really are the owners and are they available to sign a deed over to you and do they want to? So common bit of confusion. Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
they do. The thing I see them mess up a lot is if someone's transferring a partial interest, and the deed could be as clear as day, and it could say, I'm giving a 1/2 interest to this person. And then suddenly the tax records change to that person. And they say, whoa, 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 I gave them a 1/2 interest. What happened? And I have to say, look, I pulled your deed. I see what you mean. Yes, you're correct. The taxing authority just thinks that. But, then it does become a problem if that person then goes and transfers and now someone else is claiming full title because they say, oh, I thought this person had 100%. Now I'm a bona fide purchaser. People love to throw that out because it sounds so legal and official. But yeah, they do make mistakes. A lot of times you can either just go to the office or get them on the phone and get it fixed. But yes, what I do have to tell people is you don't necessarily have to worry about that because at the end of the day, what matters is what a title company is going to say, not the taxing authority.
Yeah. I that makes sense there. I didn't think about that example where the clerk or the worker, the employee at the appraisal district is not actually reading the deed carefully. So they're not seeing it's a 1/2 undivided interest. So they're just changing it. And I can see that. The perfect example of why the records may not be accurate. I think we've got time for one more question. And this is more of a survey for me. Chris, let's say you're a landlord and you want to set a blanket policy that says you're not going to accept any criminal history. This came up in the real estate podcast. No criminal history. Landlord says, I just don't want to take anything. Is that okay or not okay? I mean, you have no idea the answer to it. It's a very specialized question. And I've kind of set you up, right? But
No
do
criminal
you
history. I'm going to guess you can't say no criminal history. I think you could probably say no felons. I'm going to guess you can't say no criminal history.
That's an excellent guess. That's the correct answer. So, but do you have any idea why? And this was sort of new to me.
I can make up a public policy argument that, we don't need to punish people forever and ever for Class C misdemeanors. And we've got to balance the landlord's right to their, choose who goes in their property versus creating a society that just steps on people who made one small mistake in life.
I think there is a policy component to it, but it's actually more specialized than that. And I learned about this recently. I was really surprised by it, that it's really a HUD, fair housing thing, because saying that if you're a landlord and you say no criminal history, that is discriminatory because it has a disparate impact, perhaps on certain races that are more likely to commit crimes. So the example in the real estate show, came up, Phil C and me were doing the real estate show. Phil C and I were doing the real estate show, I mean to say. And the hypothetical was, hey, Phil, you're an Indian guy, I'm a Jewish guy. It might be the case that Jewish people and Indian people are more likely to commit crimes. And if you were to have a blanket policy that said no criminal history, then you might be discriminating against Jewish people and Indian people. And that would have a disparate impact on protected classes. That's the idea. It was new to me. I just thought it was a very interesting thing, because I sort of thought, gosh, as a landlord, if I don't want to take criminals, I don't have to. But you sort of attacked it from a policy standpoint, which was interesting. But this was a very kind of a rule or some precedent that came out of fair housing. And your horse sense is correct. You don't have to take felons or violent criminals or people that have sold drugs, but you have to look at all tenants, and evaluate criminal history, and you can't have a blanket policy against any criminal history. So I just thought that was an interesting bonus question for the day. So good one to end on.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. All these public policy things, you can get dicey because everybody can disagree on, whether there's racial undertones. If we could just have policies that benefit everybody, but I know the world is not perfect. There's always these considerations we have to take into account.
That question was for our landlords out there. Let's just educate them that way. All right, that brings our show to a close. I've been your host, Phil Silverman. Chris Hild has been my co-host today. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. And as a reminder, nothing in this show is to be considered legal advice, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com and tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. Everybody have a great rest of your day and weekend.